Have you ever wondered why bad things happen to good people? Today, in this fascinating journey, we will explore one of humanity's deepest mysteries through the story of Job. A story of faith, desperation, and the eternal search for justice. But wait, what if I told you that this ancient story has surprising answers for our modern lives? Prepare to challenge everything you thought you knew about adversity, faith, and divine justice. Don't miss a single moment of this eye-opening journey. In this Bible story from the book of Job, we find a wealthy man, named Job, who lived in a region known as Uz. He had a large family and huge flocks. Job was an upright and just person, always committed to leading a moral life and maintained a very disciplined relationship with God. In the land of Uz there lived a man whose name was Job. This man was blameless and honest, he feared God and shunned evil. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He owned 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 yokes of oxen, 500 donkeys, and a large number of servants. He was considered the greatest among all the peoples of the East. Job's children used to have parties at home on their birthdays and invite their 3 sisters to eat and drink with them. After a period of celebrations, Job organized a purification ritual for them. Very early in the morning, I offered a burnt sacrifice for each one, thinking, perhaps my children have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. This was Job's constant practice. As described in the first chapter, verses 1 to 5. God highlighted Job's virtues before Satan. However, Satan argued that Job was righteous only because God favored him abundantly. One day, the angels came to appear before the Lord, and Satan was also among them. The Lord asked Satan, "Where do you come from?" Satan responded to the Lord, "To travel the earth, coming and going through it." Then the Lord said to Satan, "Have you noticed my servant Job? There is no one on earth like him, a man of integrity and righteousness, who fears God and avoids evil. Does Job fear God without reason?" Satan replied, "Have you not put a protection around him, his house, and everything he owns? You have blessed everything he does, and his flocks and herds have spread over the land." These dialogues between God and Satan are narrated in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 6 to 10. Satan challenged God, saying that if he were allowed to inflict suffering on Job, he would change and curse God. God allowed Satan to torment Job to prove this bold claim, but he forbade taking Job's life. "But stretch out your hand and attack everything he possesses, and he will surely curse you to your face," said the Lord to Satan. "Very well then, everything he possesses is in your power, but do not lay your hand on the man himself." Then Satan left the presence of the Lord. These events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. Job received 4 pieces of news in a single day, reporting that his sheep, servants, and 10 children had died. Victims of invaders, thieves, or natural disasters. One day, while Job's sons and daughters were celebrating and drinking wine in the elder brother's house, a messenger came to Job and said, "The oxen were plowing and the donkeys were grazing nearby, when the Sabaeans attacked and carried them away. They killed the servants with the sword, and I was the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger came and said, "The fire of God fell from heaven and burned the sheep and the servants, and I was the only one who escaped to tell you." While he was still speaking, another messenger arrived. "The Chaldeans formed 3 attack groups and launched a surprise attack on your camels, taking them away. They killed the servants with the sword, and I was the only one who managed to escape to inform you." Still speaking, another messenger came saying, "Your sons and daughters were celebrating and drinking wine in the elder brother's house, when, suddenly, a strong wind came from the desert and hit the 4 corners of the house. It collapsed on them and they died. I'm the only one who escaped to tell you." These tragic events are described in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 13 to 19. In his mourning, Job tore his clothes and shaved his head, but still praised God in his prayers. Then Job arose, tore his cloak, shaved his head, and, prostrate on the ground, worshipped, saying, "Naked came I from my mother's womb, and naked will I depart. The Lord gave and the Lord took away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." In all this, Job did not sin nor attribute any fault to God. This response from Job is in the book of Job, chapter 1, verses 20 to 22. Satan appears in heaven again and God gives him another opportunity to test Job. This time, Job suffers from terrible skin wounds. Job's wife tries to persuade him to curse God and renounce life, but he resists and tries to endure his sufferings. Two plots are skillfully intertwined, one heavenly and one earthly. Events on earth are the result of something that has already occurred in heaven, just as there is war on earth immediately after a conflict in heaven, as in the book of Revelation. Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, three of Job's friends, arrived to comfort him, sitting with him in silence for 7 days in respect of his mourning. Job speaks on the seventh day, beginning a dialogue in which each of the four men offers poetic descriptions of their problems. Job curses the day of his birth, comparing life and death to light and darkness. He wishes he had never been born and that his birth had been covered by darkness, feeling that life only increases his agony. Eliphaz responds that Job, who previously comforted others, now admits that he was never really aware of their suffering. Eliphaz concludes that Job's pain must be due to some sin he committed, and recommends that Job seek God's favor. Bildad and Zophar agree that Job must have committed some evil to provoke God's justice, and they argue that he should try to demonstrate more innocent behavior. Bildad supposes that Job's sons brought death upon themselves. Worse yet, Zophar implies that any mistakes Job made would deserve far more pain than he has received. Job reacts to each of these comments, so irritated that he calls his sympathizers, Job calls his friends, useless doctors, who mask their help with lies, as described in the book of Job, chapter 13, verses 1 to 4. My ears have heard and understood that. What you know, I know too. I am not inferior to you, but I wish to talk to the Almighty and discuss my case with God. However, you defame me with lies. They are all useless doctors. Job questions why God judges people based on their actions when he could easily correct or forgive those actions. Job is perplexed as to how a human being can fully satisfy God's justice, since the ways of God are mysterious and beyond human understanding. Furthermore, humans cannot convince God with their words. God is not fooled, and Job admits that he doesn't even know enough to plead his case before God. Job longs for someone who can mediate between him and God, so that he will not be condemned to Sheol, the underworld. Job believes that in heaven there is a witness or redeemer who will attest to his integrity, as he expresses in chapter 19, verse 25. And in chapter 16, verse 19. Right now, my witness is in heaven, my lawyer is in heaven. The suffering becomes unbearable for Job, and he becomes bitter, anxious, and afraid. He laments God's injustice in allowing evil people to prosper while he and many other honest people suffer. Job wants to confront God and protest, but he cannot physically find him. He thinks that wisdom is hidden from humanity, but resolves to pursue it, fearing God and avoiding evil. Eventually, God intervenes in a divine dialogue of the first round. During his speeches, Job asked God 36 times to speak with him. Now, your wish is granted. On both occasions when God speaks to Job, it happens in the middle of a storm. There is a certain humor in the way God addresses him. Job is reminded by God that he is the creator of everything. God reviews his impressive activity of creating and sustaining the world, asking Job if he could match that work. He ends by asking if Job is in a position to judge, saying that it is impertinent for Job to believe that God should explain himself to him. Job is made to feel very small. Eventually, Job responds, I am unworthy. How can I answer you? I put my hand over my mouth. I spoke once, but I have no answer. Twice, but I won't say anything else. In the second encounter, God does not speak about himself as creator, but about two of his creatures. The speech is full of humor. Once again, he asks Job about his thoughts regarding the hippopotamus, the behemoth, and the crocodile, the leviathan, as if these incredible beasts held the answers to life's great problems. Job is reminded that he cannot understand God, nor the animal world, much less the moral world. So, God's main point is, why are you trying to argue with me? Job responds that God is omniscient and that no plan of his can be thwarted. He now realizes that his questioning of God was totally inappropriate, and he despises himself and repents in ashes and dust. Although the encounter with God is humiliating for Job, the core of Job's problem is addressed as he reconnects with God. The dialogue provides a magnificent and unexpected climax to the book. In the epilogue, the text changes from poetry to prose as Job accepts that he should not blame God for his interactions with him. God restores Job's children, 7 sons and 3 daughters, property, camels, and flocks of sheep, making him much richer and happier than before. As a servant of God, Job is rehabilitated. On the other hand, Job's 3 friends are severely rebuked by God, who says that they did not speak correctly about Job, indicating that we should not quote his speeches as if they were truths. What is notable about God's 2 rounds with Job is that he still does not respond to Job's inquiries and does not tell him about his bet with Satan. Job did not need to know what was happening in heaven, because God had his reasons for allowing him to suffer. We must keep in mind a sharp difference between the Jewish understanding of this book and the Christian one. The Jew of Old Testament times could not see the problems of temporal life in the light of eternity. He felt that God's justice should be seen in this life, since both good and bad people were going to the same destiny. Sheol, a place of shadowy existence where broken spirits sleep. Christians, on the other hand, have a completely different view on current suffering. They see the greater vision of heaven in the light of the work of Christ. The suffering in this world pales in comparison to the life that awaits us in heaven. Therefore, there are only hints of life after death throughout Job's book. At one point, Job declares that he will find God after his death, but this is not a recurring theme in the book, and he has no idea how it will happen. The book of Job has 2 main plots, the divine plot and the earthly plot. The book begins with the heavenly plot, God's meeting in heaven with Satan. Satan was an angel whose function was to report sins. He was God's accusing lawyer, traveling the earth to report to God what human beings were like. By the time of Job, Satan had become so cynical that he did not believe anyone could love God for God's sake. He believed that people only loved God for what he could provide them. Thus, a debate develops between God and Satan, with Satan arguing exactly that. God asks Satan if he found Job in his travels through the earth. Job loves me because he loves me, not because of any blessing he has received, God claims. Satan's response is cynical, arguing that if God took away Job's blessings, he would blaspheme God, just like anyone else. As a result, the divine wager occurs. Tension is essential in any excellent drama. Hobbes is unaware of the divine wager while the reader is aware. The test would be useless if he knew. This encounter teaches us valuable truths about Satan. Firstly, it suggests that he cannot be in 2 places at the same time. It does not possess the omnipresence of God. The human plot, the debate between Job and his companions, takes up most of the book. Why is Job suffering more than other people? It is the central question addressed. There are 2 points of view. 1. The friends are sure that Job's suffering is due to his sin. B. Job is convinced that he is not sinning and protests his innocence. The exchange is full of suspense, as the reader knows that Job is right. The book's 2-plot structure reminds us that no one knows the whole picture when it comes to understanding why people suffer. It must be very difficult to defend yourself when you are in so much misery. In addition to the search for explanations, everyone faces a bigger question. Can I continue to believe in a good God when everything seems to be going wrong? The book of Job offers an answer to this question. What was Job's greatest pain? This clarifies the importance of this topic. It was a physical confrontation. He was covered in wounds, from head to toe, tired, exhausted, and in unbearable pain. Socially, due to his physical appearance and the fact that the local community was aware of his recent tragedy, he became a social outcast. People walked on the other side of the street instead of talking to him, while he sat on a pile of ashes at the edge of town. Even the teenagers laughed at him. Mentally, he faced the mental pain of not knowing why these distressing things were happening to him, especially since there seemed to be nothing in his past that indicated it. Spiritually, his spiritual distress was far worse than any other, as he felt alienated from God. Job cried out, imploring God to find him, talk to him, and even argue with him. That was his true most unbearable pain. Suffering is much more agonizing if we believe that God is distant and disinterested. However, when Job finally managed to talk to God, things did not happen as he had planned. For Christians, the book of Job can be seen in the context of the New Testament. 1. God allowed Satan to cause Jesus' death on the cross, with the Son himself asking, "My God, why?" As with Job, God did not explain why. This suggests that even the Son of God lost touch with the purpose of his suffering under the intensity of the torment of the crucifixion. 2. The Christian understands that life continues beyond death. The problems of suffering do not need to be solved in this life. It is interesting to note that in the Greek version of the book of Job an additional verse was added stating that he, Job, will be resurrected with those whom the Lord resurrects. 3. This hope of resurrection reminds us that there will be a final vindication of Job. Christians believe that Jesus will return to judge the living and the dead at the end of time. Someday there will be a court scene where Jesus will sit as judge, and all the evil and godly people who have ever lived will stand before his throne to be judged according to their actions in the body. Therefore, everything Job longed for is about to come true. God's justice will be applied to the entire human race in a public demand for justice. As we explore Job's incredible journey, we discover that the lessons of faith, resilience, and divine justice are more relevant than ever. But the journey doesn't end here. We have much more to discover together. If you like this video, imagine what else we can explore. Every story we share is a new opportunity to unravel mysteries, find inspiration, and transform our perception of the world. So, don't be left out. Subscribe to the channel now and turn on notifications to never miss an adventure. Your like is very important to us as it helps us reach more people with these powerful messages. Comment below with your reflections and share this video with friends and family who would also benefit from these extraordinary stories. Together we will continue our journey in search of wisdom and inspiration. See you in the next video. As we close another chapter together, I know some questions may still resonate in your mind. You may be wondering how to navigate the complexities of spiritual life and unlock a path of abundance and blessings. The journey is challenging, but you don't have to walk alone. In the comments you will find a powerful key to that door that many seek to open. Remember, prosperity with God is not just a distant dream. It is a promise waiting to be fulfilled. With this guide, you are one step closer to making it a reality. Your success story begins today.